when I had filmed my January inventory update, I had no intention on making a mid-year update. However, I don't know, the time rolled around and I kind of felt like it. And I feel like there's enough changes that happened that make it interesting enough. And a lot of it is from decluttering, but I also have made some exciting progress in regards to painting things and using things up. I have purchased a few items, I will admit that. So some categories have gone up, but more categories have gone down than they've gone up. So I think I'm trending in the right direction. So I'm just gonna start with the first category, which are concealers, which not the best category to start with, I will say, because the beginning of this year I had 2. Reasonable. That's like my goal. I have 5 now, but that's because I wanted to buy backups. I have conflicting thoughts on the concealers I have. The e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, love that. That'll just be my staple. It is a hair too dark for me sometimes, but it is the best for my under eyes, so I really like that. The e.l.f. Flawless Brightening Concealer Stick, I actually don't even know what it's called. I like that because it's a very sheer, natural finish and it blends into the skin really well. However, I think the color I've been using might not be the best. I got the lightest, coolest shade, but it seems a little pale and pink for me. I'm wearing it today, but for some reason in the camera, I look way better than I do. I don't know. The first time I've really noticed the color being really off is today, and it could just be the bathroom that I used. It could just be the lighting in there makes everything look weirder, but maybe that's just what people see. I don't know. But I still like the formula, so while I have a backup of the shade, I go through them fairly quickly, so by the end of the year, I should be able to buy a different shade. I got that Wet n Wild one because at one point I left my makeup and I didn't have any concealer for my travel bag, so I just grabbed the cheapest concealer at the drugstore, which was from Wet n Wild. The shade's a little light on me, but that's nice for brightening sometimes. It's just a little bit thicker than I might like, a little bit heavier of a concealer, just because my preferences have changed, but I don't think it's bad. I think my skin is just a little bit picky because it's pretty dry lately, so I have to be careful. Even the most hydrating things, sometimes my skin is just not for. But anyways, hopefully by the end of the year, I at least go through that Wet n Wild one because I don't really need that in my life. But having 2 or 3 isn't bad. Even 4 if it's like backups of the 2 that I like to use. 5 seems like a little much, so I want to work on shrinking that back to where it was. But the next category I'm doing great in, that is powders. I had 2 at the beginning of the year. I used one up, I decluttered one, and then I purchased one as a replacement for the other, even though it was a different product. It's a very similar type of product. I just want one that'll set my cream products, but not make my face look super dry. So that's why I have the e.l.f. Halo Glow Powder. And the next category is bronzers and contours. I still have the same contour kit. It's the only one I use lately. Part of me wants a bronzer these days, but I'm wondering if that feeling and that desire might go away if I just get a concealer that's not quite so pink on me. So yeah, I don't know, because I feel like all the bronzers that I see just wouldn't be the right color for me anyway. So yeah, I'm fine with my contour. Some days I just skip it anyway and just use blush. But for blushes and highlighters, I put them in the same category because the lines are blurred sometimes. My Milani Baked Blush is so glowy and pale that it seems almost like the child of a highlighter and a blush. So I just lumped them all together. I still have 6, but things have changed. It looks like I have more now, but I finished 2 highlighters in that face palette. And then I filled up all the pans with Frankens of the remaining 2 blushes. And I put 2 eyeshadows as a highlighter in there, but that's not in this category. It's in the eyeshadow category, even though it won't be in the picture. I'm counting those 2 eyeshadows in my eyeshadow numbers. But I did buy a blush and a highlight, so those numbers replaced the 2 highlighters I finished in the face palette. So while it looks like I've grown, the numbers are the same. which I think 6 is the perfect number for me, even though I am drawn to get all the blushes in the world. But moving on to eyeshadow primers, I'm still at 2, still the same, though my goal is to finish the Milani one by the end of the year, just because it's getting old, and I think I can if I just try. Speaking of eyeshadows, my eyeshadow category, this one is the biggest change. I had 125 at the beginning of this year, and now I am down to 106. And most of that is not through panning. I have finished a few eyeshadows. There was 2 that were in this Franken pale blush I made. There was one in a Franken bronzer I used up. There was one shade, the Essence Single Eye 1. I had 2 at one point. I got such a big pan. I was ready to repress, but the lid had broken off. So when I dropped it on accident, all the contents just fell across the floor, and so I wasn't able to repress it. If the lid was not broken, it probably would have remained within the compact and I would have been able to repress it, but I consider that an empty because I used the majority of it up. But everything else is just a result of decluttering the shades that I realized I just don't want to wear. They're not the colors that I'm drawn to, or a lot of matte shades were so dry and crumbly that they weren't worth trying to save. But also some of them were shades that I was eyeing anyway, so my short-term goal would be to get it below 100. But in regards to long-term goals, I would really like to slow down my eyeshadow buying a lot. And I think I would be perfectly happy, let's say in 10 years, to just have 50 eyeshadows, you know, have a good variety of colors, but I don't need every color under the sun because there's just some that I don't really like to put on my eyes, even if I think they're pretty on their own. But let's move on to another really exciting category, eyeliners. I had 3 and I'm down to 0. I have used all of them up, and that's fine by me. I'm fine with just using eyeshadow. I have some eyeshadow on today as an eyeliner. I don't know if I need it to be eyeliner because I don't really like it on my waterline most days. It's just not comfortable, and sometimes it irritates my eyes. So it's just not something I need. Mascaras is another category that has grown, but I'm really fine with that. I had 1, now I have 2. The only reason I have 2 is because of a buy one get one 50% off sale, and I always buy the same mascara, so I'm fine with having a backup. Brow products is an exciting category for me because I have gone down, even if it's just a little bit. I had 3, now I have 2. I only had 2 backups because I forgot one of them existed. But now I just have 1 backup and I'm working on 1, and I know it's gonna take me a year to use up, but that's fine because the next one's waiting for me. I'm not in a rush. I just like to see the numbers going down because 2 backups was ridiculous for how quickly I go through, or how not quickly I go through brow gel. Lip liners is something I had none at the beginning of the year, but I bought 2, and so that is what I have now. I'm wearing one today with a lipstick, and then I have a warmer neutral one. I am eyeing 2 at the moment. I don't know if I'd buy them within this year, but with lip liners, I go through them so naturally. I'm not as worried versus lipsticks I find take a lot longer to go through. With lip liners, I'm a little more lenient with what I'd buy. If I had 4, it wouldn't be the end of the world. They take barely any space, and I like to use them most days when I wear a lipstick. But lipsticks is exciting because I had 7 in January, and now I have 5. I don't know, I think I'll be posting this before my project pan update. My project pan update's gonna be late, but I think everyone wouldn't be surprised by what I used up and stuff. There's spoilers in this video, but they're not surprising by any means. So I finished 2 lipsticks, the first 2 lipsticks I've ever finished when you take into account full-size bullet lipsticks, and I am just really happy about that. I don't think I'm gonna be buying any lipsticks anytime soon, but I did use a bit of some of them in Franken tinted lip balms. I won't be finishing them anytime soon though, because I did not use enough of them in the Franken to actually make good progress. All the lipsticks I have right now, they have a lot left. and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. The one that I wear the most is the one I have today. It's a very sheer application of it though, so I just don't wear lipstick like crazy. So they're just gonna be hanging around and it's fine. Tinted lip balms, I still have 2 like last time. However, you will see in the picture there are 2 new tubes added, and that's because I made 2 Franken lip balms. That second e.l.f. tube, the orange one, is empty and half of the product is in one of those little lip balm tubes. The other half is in the other tube. I made 2 different Frankens because orange is just not for me. So I needed a way to make the color a bit more approachable, and the colors I made are definitely much better than orange. My last category also went down. Lip glosses, I had 2 and I decluttered them. If you've seen a recent declutter, then you know. The only lip glosses that I'm interested in, I did do a wish list recently, are in the stick form, not the liquid tube form. I just can't stand that thick feeling on my lips. If I want a gloss, I want it to be in a solid stick format because that's just the texture that I like on my lips. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went back up to 1 or 2 by the end of this year, and that is fine. But I am excited to share my total numbers because that is where you can see I am going in the right direction, because my ultimate goal is to just have a smaller, more curated collection, one where everything gets well loved without me having to intentionally try to pan them because I forgot about them or because they're getting old and they've been sitting in my collection for years because I have so much. You know, that's not what I want. So my total last year, I have 2 totals. One where I just count everything except for eyeshadows, because the way I count eyeshadows is just singular pans. I don't have palettes anymore. And even the one little small quad I have that is a palette, I just count as singles. So my total without eyeshadow at the beginning of this year was 31, and now it is 28. So I have only shrunk by 3, and that is mostly because I had 3 categories that increased. My concealers, I got 3 more, my mascaras, I got 1 more, and my lip liners, I got 2 more. So I increased my collection by 6, but decreased it by 9, therefore the difference is 3. It wouldn't have been so bad if I didn't do a really recent purchase from e.l.f. to get backup concealers. Could have waited, but whatever, it's fine. I'm still decreasing, I'm still doing good. Even with that purchase, I am still going in the right direction. So my total with eyeshadows in January was 156, and now it is 134. So you can see a lot of my progress in terms of shrinking my collection happened with eyeshadows because I've been super busy with life and school and a part-time job and pet sitting, and in that I realized I'm not as much of an eyeshadow user in my real life versus I was really getting into eyeshadow in like 2020 when we weren't really leaving the house much. So I don't consider that real life so much as when I'm living my life in a more normal way and not as much of like I'm stuck in my room all day way. Obviously when you're stuck in your room, you might need more creative outlets to not go crazy. So in having busy lifestyle this past year, it has made me realize that there's a lot of shades that I'm just not interested in, and there's a lot of shades that I am trying to more intentionally use. I'm almost thinking of doing some kind of project where I use every eyeshadow in my collection once by the end of the year. Maybe it's like a second half of the year thing. I don't know, let me know if you think that would be a good idea. And then maybe next year I could do some kind of like hitting pan on eyeshadows project or something. I'm not sure. But I do think it's super exciting that I shrinked my collection by 22 if you count everything including eyeshadows. And that is including the fact that I got that 4-pan eyeshadow palette. So I had a lot of shrinking eyeshadows in order to make up for that and have this much of a difference. So yeah, that's my total inventory numbers. I feel like when I look at my collection, it's not quite as overwhelming. I'm pretty content with it. Hopefully things will continue in the right direction by the end of the year, but some categories might increase if you've seen my wish list. But I'm hoping that I will still be on the general decline. But thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye!